The phone call came exactly 1 week after I buried my husband. I was sitting in our kitchen in Asheville, staring at the coffee cup Dashiell had used that final morning. He always took his coffee black with 1 sugar, always left a small ring on the counter that I would wipe away. Now that ring felt sacred, the last trace of a man who had been my partner for 18 years. The accident happened on Interstate 40 during a business trip to Raleigh. A semi-truck jackknifed in heavy rain, and Dash's sedan went under the trailer. The highway patrol said death was instantaneous. I identified his body at the morgue 3 days later. His face was damaged, but I recognized his build. His hands, the silver watch I had given him for our 10th anniversary. I signed the papers, we held the funeral. 200 people came to St. Lawrence Catholic Church to pay their respects to a beloved financial advisor and community member. I stood by his casket and accepted condolences. Numb with grief, my best friend Temperance held my hand through the entire service. Now, 7 days later, Dr. Sutton Voss from the medical examiner's office was on the phone asking me to come back. "Mrs. Caldwell, I need you to return to the morgue as soon as possible. There has been a development in your husband's case." His voice was careful, professional, but I heard something underneath. Confusion, maybe concern. "What kind of development?" I asked, my hand tightened around the phone. "I would prefer to discuss this in person. Can you come this afternoon? And Mrs. Caldwell, you may want to bring someone with you." That scared me. Why would I need support to discuss my dead husband's case? The funeral was over, the death certificate was signed. What could possibly require another visit to that terrible place? I called Temperance immediately. She was a retired nurse, practical and steady. If Dr. Voss thought I needed support, Tempe was the person I wanted. "I will pick you up in 20 minutes, she said without hesitation. We drove to the Buncombe County Medical Examiner's office in silence. I kept replaying that first identification. Dash's body on the table, sheet pulled back. His face damaged but recognizable, or so I thought. Dr. Voss met us in the lobby. He was a thin man in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes that looked troubled today. "Mrs. Caldwell, thank you for coming. Please follow me to my office." Not the viewing room, his office. That seemed significant. Temperance squeezed my hand as we followed him down the sterile hallway. His office was small, cluttered with files and medical texts. He gestured for us to sit, then pulled out a thick folder. "Mrs. Caldwell, I am going to be direct because there is no easy way to say this. The man you identified as your husband, the man we buried last week, is not Dashiell Caldwell." The words did not make sense. I stared at him, waiting for the sentence to rearrange itself into something logical. "I do not understand," I identified him. I saw his watch, his wedding ring. His hands, that was my husband. Dr. Voss opened the folder and pulled out several documents. We ran routine toxicology and tissue samples, as we do in all accident fatalities. "The dental records we requested from your husband's dentist do not match the deceased, not even close." He showed me x-rays. One labeled Dashiell Caldwell Dental Records 2019 inches showed a mouth with several fillings and one crown on a lower molar. The other, labeled Deceased Current, showed completely different teeth. Different fillings in different locations. No crown, dental records are like fingerprints. Dr. Voss explained quietly, "They do not change. These are two different men." Temperance made a small sound beside me. I could not make any sound at all. "There is more," Dr. Voss continued. "Your husband's medical records indicate he had his appendix removed at age 16. The deceased still has his appendix. Your husband broke his left femur in a skiing accident 10 years ago. There is surgical hardware, pins and plates. The deceased has no such hardware. His left femur has never been broken." He pulled out more documents. Blood type Dash was O positive. The deceased was OB negative. Height Dash was 6'1". The deceased was 5'11". "Mrs. Caldwell, the man who died in that accident was carrying your husband's identification, wearing his wedding ring, driving his car. But biologically, medically, he is not Dashiell Caldwell." "Then who is he?" My voice came out as a whisper. "And where is my husband?" Dr. Voss glanced at Temperance. Then back to me. "I have contacted the Asheville Police Department. Detective Greer Ashcroft is handling the case. She is waiting to speak with you. Mrs. Caldwell, I am very sorry, but we need to consider the possibility that your husband may have been the victim of identity theft. Or worse, the word hung in the air like smoke. What was worse than identity theft? Detective Ashcroft joined us 5 minutes later. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her late 40s with short dark hair and the tired look of someone who had seen too many terrible things. She shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Caldwell, I know this is overwhelming. I need to ask you some questions about your husband. When did you last speak with him before the accident? I tried to focus. The morning he left for Raleigh. March 7th. He called me that evening from his hotel to say he arrived safely. That was the last time we spoke. The accident happened the next morning. And you are certain it was your husband on that call? The question struck me as odd. Of course, I would recognize my husband's voice. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. The call had been brief. Dash said he was tired from the drive. Wanted to get dinner and sleep. We talked for maybe 3 minutes. Detective Ashcroft made notes. Mrs. Caldwell, I need you to think carefully. Has your husband been acting differently recently? Any unusual behavior, unexplained absences, financial irregularities? I started to say no. But Temperance interrupted. Reverie. What about the business trips? You said they were increasing. She was right over the past year. Dash had been traveling more frequently. He said his financial advisory firm was expanding, taking on new clients in Charlotte, Raleigh, Charleston. He was gone 2 or 3 nights a week sometimes. When I mentioned it seemed excessive. He assured me it was temporary. We needed the income. I was 61, retired from teaching. Dash was 63 and planning to retire in 2 years. These trips were building our nest egg. Or so he said. Tell me about his business. Detective Ashcroft prompted. Caldwell Financial Services. He ran it from an office downtown. He had about 40 clients, mostly retirees needing investment management and estate planning. Detective Ashcroft wrote something down. And his business partner, Lennox Merrick. They have worked together for 15 years. She nodded. We will need to speak with Mr. Merrick. Mrs. Caldwell, I am going to ask you something difficult. Is there any possibility your husband was living a double life? Another family, another identity. The suggestion was absurd. Dash and I had been married for 18 years. We met at a community theater production where we were both volunteering. He was kind, stable, devoted. We had a small, quiet life filled with books, hiking, dinners with friends. There was no secret life, no. I said firmly, that is not possible. Detective Ashcroft did not look convinced, but she nodded. I understand. Let us approach this from another angle. I need you to go through your husband's belongings at home. Documents, papers, anything that might tell us who the deceased actually was and where your real husband might be. The words, your real husband, made me feel sick. We left the medical examiner's office in a daze. Temperance drove me home and came inside without asking. I am staying with you tonight. She said, we are going to figure this out together. We started in Dash's home office. I had rarely gone in there. It was his space, filled with client files and financial documents. Now I looked at it with different eyes. Temperance and I pulled files systematically. Tax returns, bank statements, investment records, everything looked normal. Too normal. Reverie, look at this. Temperance said, holding up a bank statement. It was for an account I did not recognize. An account at a bank in Charleston, South Carolina, under the name D. Caldwell. The balance was over $200,000. Did you know about this account? I did not. We kept our finances separate but transparent. We had a joint checking account for household expenses, individual retirement accounts, a shared savings account with about $70,000. This Charleston account was not part of any discussion we had ever had. I logged into Dash's computer. His password was my birthday. Same as always, inside his email. I found correspondence with the Charleston Bank going back 5 years. Deposits, transfers, statements. And something else. Emails from a woman named Marlo Thorne. Darling, I cannot wait to see you next week. It has been too long. Love always, M. I opened more emails, dozens of them. Spanning years, affectionate messages. Plans for trips, references to our home in Charleston. Temperance read over my shoulder. Reverie, I am so sorry. I could not process it. 18 years of marriage and my husband had a mistress in Charleston. No, not a mistress. The emails were too familiar. Too domestic. They talked about mortgage payments, grocery shopping, dinner plans. This was not an affair. This was another life. Detective Ashcroft arrived within an hour of my call. I showed her everything, the secret bank account, the emails, the references to Charleston. She read through them carefully. Mrs. Caldwell, I need to make some calls. Can you forward all of these emails to me? I did. She stepped outside to make phone calls while Temperance made tea neither of us would drink. When Detective Ashcroft came back inside, her expression was grim. Mrs. Caldwell, there is a property registered in Charleston under the name Dashiell and Marlowe Caldwell. A house in the historic district, purchased 8 years ago. My vision swam. 8 years, our 10th anniversary. The year Dash gave me a surprise trip to New Orleans. The year he said business was booming. We are driving to Charleston tomorrow. Detective Ashcroft said, I am coordinating with Charleston PD. We need to see this property and speak with Marlowe Thorne. Mrs. Caldwell, you do not have to come if you do not want to. I am coming, I said, there was no question. I needed to see this other life with my own eyes. We left at dawn. Detective Ashcroft drove. Temperance sat beside me in the back seat holding my hand. The 3-hour drive felt endless. Charleston appeared like something from a dream. Beautiful, historic, completely foreign to me. Dash and I had never been here together. Or I thought we had not. Maybe he had been here dozens of times without me. The house was on Trad Street, a stunning historic property with a wraparound porch and a garden filled with azaleas. Detective Ashcroft knocked. A woman answered. She was about my age, late 50s, with auburn hair and a warm smile that faltered when she saw the detective's badge. Marlowe Thorne, Detective Ashcroft asked. Yes, I am Detective Greer Ashcroft with Asheville PD. This is Reverie Caldwell. We need to speak with you about Dashiell Caldwell. The woman went white, her hand flew to her mouth. Did something happen to Dash? Oh God, is he hurt? May we come inside? We sat in her living room. A beautiful space filled with antiques and family photos. Photos of Marlowe and a man who looked exactly like my husband. Marlowe at the beach with this man. Marlowe and this man at a formal event. Marlowe and this man in front of this very house. How long have you known Dashiell Caldwell? Detective Ashcroft asked gently. Marlowe looked at me, confused about why I was there. We have been married for 15 years. What is this about? Where is Dash? Married, the word landed like a physical blow. Mrs. Thorne, when did you last see your husband? 3 weeks ago. He travels for work. He is a financial consultant. He goes between Charleston, Asheville, and Charlotte. He is supposed to be home this weekend. Detective Ashcroft pulled out a photo. The deceased from the accident. Is this your husband? Marlowe took the photo and nodded immediately. Yes, that is Dash. Why do you have this photo? What happened? I could not breathe. The man who died in the accident looked like my husband. This woman said he was her husband, but the dental records said he was not my husband. Detective Ashcroft looked at me, then back at Marlowe. Mrs. Thorne, this man died in a car accident 3 weeks ago, on Interstate 40 near Raleigh. Marlowe made a sound like she had been struck. Tears filled her eyes immediately. No, that cannot be right. Dash called me 2 days ago. He said he was in Charlotte, that he would be home soon. Detective Ashcroft leaned forward. Mrs. Thorne, I need to show you something else. She pulled out a photo of me and Dash. Our wedding photo from 18 years ago. Do you know this man? Marlowe stared at the photo. That is Dash, that is my husband. Who is that woman? That is me. I said quietly, I am Reverie Caldwell. I have been married to Dashiell Caldwell for 18 years. The confusion on Marlowe's face was absolute. That is impossible. Dash and I have been married for 15 years. We met in Charleston. He proposed on the beach at Sullivan's Island. We bought this house together. She stood up and went to a bookshelf. Pulling down photo albums, she spread them out on the coffee table. Wedding photos, Marlowe in a white dress. The man who looked like Dash in a tuxedo. A marriage certificate dated 15 years ago. Photos of holidays, vacations, birthday parties, a whole life documented in images. Detective Ashcroft asked, did your husband have any distinguishing marks? Scars, surgical history? He had his appendix removed as a teenager, and he broke his leg skiing about 10 years ago. He has pins in his left femur. My stomach dropped. That matched the deceased. That matched the body I had identified. Detective Ashcroft pulled out her phone and made a call. This is Detective Ashcroft. I need you to run a full background check on Dashiell Caldwell. All records, all states, and I need you to contact the FBI. I think we have a major identity fraud case. She hung up and looked at both of us. I believe the man who died in that accident was using a stolen identity. He was posing as Dashiell Caldwell to both of you. But he was not the real Dashiell Caldwell. Marlo shook her head, crying. I do not understand. I have been married to him for 15 years. We have a life together. How can he not be who he said he was? Mrs. Thorne, did your husband have life insurance? Marlo nodded. $5 million. He said we needed it because he was the primary earner. Detective Ashcroft turned to me. Mrs. Caldwell, did your husband have life insurance? Yes, $3 million. He set it up about 5 years ago. The detective's expression hardened. There it is, motive, this man, whoever he really was, insured himself under a stolen identity multiple times. He created multiple lives with multiple wives, all with massive insurance policies. When he died, each of you would collect millions. But he died in an accident, I said. How could that be part of a plan? Maybe it was not, maybe the accident was real. Or maybe there is more to this story. Detective Ashcroft stood. I need both of you to come with me. We are going to the Charleston FBI field office. This is bigger than insurance fraud. If this man was living multiple identities, there could be more victims. At the FBI office, we met Agent Ramsey Kellerman from the fraud division. He was a serious man in his 50s who listened to everything without interrupting. Then he pulled up files on his computer. We have been tracking a suspect named Grafton Pierce for 8 years. He is a con man who specializes in identity theft and insurance fraud. He targets women, marries them under stolen identities, takes out life insurance policies, then fakes his death to collect. Except this time, he actually died before he could execute the plan. Agent Kellerman showed us photos. The man in the photos looked similar to the deceased, but not identical. Grafton Pierce is a master of disguise. Plastic surgery, dental work, colored contacts, voice coaching. He becomes the identity he steals. How does he choose his victims? Temperance asked quietly. He looks for widows or divorced women who are financially stable but lonely. Women who want companionship and will not ask too many questions. He is charming, attentive, perfect. He builds trust, gets married, sets up the insurance, then disappears. Except he does not disappear. He just moves to another city and starts over with a new stolen identity. Agent Kellerman pulled up more files. We believe Grafton Pierce has had at least 6 different wives over the past 20 years. Total insurance fraud value, over $40 million. But we could never catch him because he always disappeared before we could confirm his identity. So the man who died was Grafton Pierce, pretending to be Dashiell Caldwell. I said slowly, but who was the real Dashiell Caldwell? Agent Kellerman's expression softened. That is what we need to find out. Mrs. Caldwell, you said you met your husband 18 years ago. Can you tell me exactly how you met? I thought back, it seemed like a lifetime ago. We met at a community theater. I was volunteering backstage. He was helping build sets, we talked, started dating. He said he was a financial advisor who had recently moved to Asheville from Atlanta after a divorce. We married 6 months later. Agent Kellerman typed notes. And you, Mrs. Thorne. Marlo wiped her eyes. We met at a charity event in Charleston. He said he was a widower, that his first wife had died in a car accident 3 years before. He was lonely, looking to start over. We dated for a year, then got married. He seemed perfect, kind, generous, attentive. I thought I had found my soulmate. Agent Kellerman pulled up a missing persons database. He typed in Dashiell Caldwell and a location. A file appeared. There was a Dashiell Caldwell who went missing from Atlanta 15 years ago. Age 48 at the time, financial advisor. Divorced, never found. He clicked on the file. A photo appeared. The man in the photo looked similar to the man I married. But younger, there were differences. Enough that, if you did not look closely, you might miss them. I believe Grafton Pierce murdered the real Dashiell Caldwell 15 years ago and assumed his identity. He used that identity to marry you, Mrs. Thorne, and later to marry you, Mrs. Caldwell, while maintaining both relationships simultaneously. Marlo stood up suddenly. I need air. This is insane. Temperance went with her, leaving me alone with the detective and the agent. Mrs. Caldwell, I need to ask. Did your husband ever ask you to take out life insurance on yourself? The question made my blood run cold. No, why? Because if Grafton Pierce's pattern holds, he does not just insure himself. He insures his wives, then they disappear. I thought of every trip Dash had taken, every night he was gone, every time he came home smelling like hotel soap and road weariness. Had he been planning to kill me? We need to find out if there are other wives. Detective Ashcroft said. Agent Kellerman nodded. I am pulling all marriage records for Dashiell Caldwell across multiple states. Give me a few hours. Those hours were the longest of my life. Marlowe and I sat in a conference room. Two women who had loved the same man, who never really existed. We did not talk much. What was there to say? By evening, Agent Kellerman returned with files. His expression was grim. There are 4 other women, all married to variations of Dashiell Caldwell in different cities. Charlotte, Raleigh, Savannah, Atlanta, all within the past 15 years. All financially stable. All had life insurance policies taken out on them worth between $2 and $5 million. 4 other women, 6 total. Grafton Pierce had been running 6 marriages simultaneously, building toward a payout of over $30 million in insurance fraud and inheritance. We are contacting each of them now, Agent Kellerman said, but Mrs. Caldwell, there is something else. We tracked Grafton Pierce's movements over the past year. He was escalating, he had started consolidating. 3 of the other wives reported that their husbands had encouraged them to increase their life insurance policies within the past 6 months. We believe he was preparing for the final phase of his plan. Which was, I asked, though I already knew. Murder, all 6 wives dead within a short time frame. Staged as accidents or natural causes. He would collect on the policies, disappear, and retire with $30 million. Temperance gripped my hand, but he died first. The accident was real, yes. Ironic, is it not? The man who had planned multiple murders died in a genuine accident before he could execute his plan. Detective Ashcroft leaned forward. But we still need to find the real Dashiell Caldwell. Or confirm he is dead. Agent Kellerman pulled up another file. We are reopening the missing person case from Atlanta. Based on Grafton Pierce's established pattern, we believe he killed Dashiell Caldwell and disposed of the body. We are searching properties Pierce owned under various names. They found the real Dashiell Caldwell 3 days later, buried on a property in rural Georgia that Pierce had purchased under a false name 15 years ago. The remains were identified through dental records. The real Dashiell Caldwell had been dead for 15 years. I had never met him, neither had Marlowe or any of the other wives. We had all married a ghost, a man who wore a dead man's name like a costume. The FBI held a press conference. Agent Kellerman stood at a podium and detailed Grafton Pierce's crimes. 6 bigamous marriages, identity theft, insurance fraud scheme totaling $30 million, murder of the real Dashiell Caldwell. Attempted murder conspiracy against 6 women. The story went national. Reporters called constantly. I stopped answering my phone. Marlowe and I talked a few times. We were not friends, but we were bonded by this bizarre, terrible experience. We had both loved a man who did not exist. Insurance companies voided all the policies. Grafton Pierce's estate, what little there was, went to pay restitution to his victims. The house in Charleston, the properties in other cities. The secret bank accounts, all of it was seized. I got back about $50,000. Marlowe got less, the other wives got varying amounts. None of us got closure. How do you grieve a husband who was never real? How do you process 18 years of marriage that was built on lies? It has been 2 years now. I still live in Asheville. I sold the house where Dash and I lived together. Too many memories of a man who was actually Grafton Pierce, pretending to be someone else. I moved into a smaller place near Temperance. She has been my anchor through all of this. The real Dashiell Caldwell's family held a memorial service. I attended. It felt right to honor the man whose identity was stolen. His ex-wife and his adult children were there. They thanked me for helping bring closure to a 15-year mystery. Sometimes I wonder what Grafton Pierce was thinking as he died in that accident. Did he know the con was over? Did he feel regret? Probably not. Men like him do not feel remorse. The other 5 wives and I formed a strange support group. We meet virtually once a month. 6 women who were targeted by the same predator. We share our experiences and help each other heal. People ask me how I missed the signs. The truth is, Grafton Pierce was brilliant at deception. He kept his marriages geographically separate, used different versions of the same name, maintained separate phones and bank accounts. He traveled constantly, which explained his absences. He was charming, attentive, perfect. Everything you want in a husband. Until you learn, he was preparing to murder you for insurance money. That is what I cannot forget. The man I loved was planning to kill me. I think about that every day. I am 63 now, retired. Alone, learning to rebuild a life. I trust slowly, I question everything. But I am alive, that has to count for something. Grafton Pierce is dead. The real Dashiell Caldwell can finally rest. And I am free, free from lies. Free from danger, free to start over. That is not the ending I expected. But it is the one I survived. So that's my story. A nightmare that started with a car accident and ended with the revelation that my entire marriage was a lie. I'm 63 years old now. It's been 2 years since that phone call from Dr. Voss changed everything. 2 years since I learned the man I buried wasn't the man I married. 2 years since I discovered I'd spent 18 years loving someone who never actually existed. Grafton Pierce is dead. The real Dashiell Caldwell was finally laid to rest with dignity after 15 years in an unmarked grave. His family got closure, 6 women, including me, escaped a murder plot we never saw coming. But here's what haunts me the most. I wasn't just deceived, I was selected. Grafton Pierce researched me, studied me, learned exactly what kind of man I was lonely for. He showed up at that community theater knowing I'd be there. He became the perfect partner, attentive, kind, stable, everything I wanted after years of being alone. Every conversation we had was calculated. Every anniversary gift was part of the con. Every "I love you" was a lie designed to keep me compliant while he set up the insurance policies that would pay out when I died in a tragic, unexplained accident. He was going to poison me, or stage a car crash, or make it look like I fell down the stairs. The FBI found search histories on his hidden devices. Methods of untraceable murder. Ways to make death look natural. Timelines for collecting insurance money. I was on his calendar, marked for death sometime within the next 6 months. But Grafton Pierce made one critical error in his 15 years of perfect deception. He got greedy, 6 wives, 6 insurance policies, $30 million. The logistics of maintaining 6 separate lives across 6 cities while planning 6 murders, it was too much. Too complicated, too many moving parts. And then, in the ultimate irony, the man who had planned multiple fake deaths died in a completely real accident. No conspiracy, no elaborate staging. Just bad weather, a jackknife truck in physics. The con artist was killed by chance. People ask me how I feel about that. Do I wish he'd lived so he could face justice? Do I wish he'd gone to prison and suffered? Honestly, I'm just grateful I'm alive. Marlo and I talk sometimes, so do the other 4 wives. We have a group chat now, 6 women bonded by the strangest, most horrifying shared experience imaginable. We were all targeted by the same predator. We all fell for the same performance. We were all marked for deaths, and we all survived because our would-be murderer died first. None of us got the justice of a trial. There was no courtroom where we could confront him. No moment where he had to face what he'd done. He just ended, in a split second on a rainy highway, and all his carefully constructed lies died with him. The insurance companies voided every policy. We got back fragments of the money he'd stolen, the houses he bought, the accounts he'd hidden. I received about $50,000. It felt like blood money. I donated most of it to a domestic violence shelter. Because that's what this was, domestic violence. Financial abuse, psychological manipulation. The fact that he never physically hit me doesn't make it less violent. He was slowly, methodically destroying my sense of reality while planning my actual death. Dashiell Caldwell's ex-wife reached out to me last year. The real Dashiell's ex-wife. She said she'd always wondered what happened to him after he went missing. She said he was a good man, flawed but decent, and he didn't deserve what Grafton Pierce did to him. I went to the cemetery where they reburied his remains, put flowers on his grave, apologized to a man I never met for the theft of his name. His identity, his life, it felt important. There's a headstone now, Dashiell Corbett Caldwell, 1962 to 2009, finally home. His children paid for it. They invited me to the dedication. Said I was a victim too, and victims should stand together. That meant more than I can express. I sold the house in Asheville. Too many ghosts, too many memories of a man who was actually Grafton Pierce, wearing a dead man's face. I moved into a condo near Temperance, started over again. Because that's what I've had to do. Start over at 63, relearn how to trust. Relearn how to be alone without feeling lonely. Relearn how to look at my own judgment and not hate myself for being fooled. Grafton Pierce was a professional. He'd been doing this for 20 years. He had refined his con to an art form. The FBI said he was one of the most sophisticated identity thieves they'd ever encountered. Plastic surgery, voice training, complete background fabrication. He didn't just steal names, he became them. So I'm trying to forgive myself for not seeing it, for not knowing, for believing that the man who kissed me goodnight was who he said he was. But here's what I've learned through all of this. Trust isn't weakness, love isn't foolishness. The fact that Grafton Pierce exploited basic human needs for connection and partnership, that's his evil, not my failure. I was targeted by a predator, I survived, and now I'm rebuilding. The six of us, the wives, we created something good from this horror. We started a foundation that helps victims of identity theft and financial fraud. We speak at conferences about red flags and manipulation tactics. We've helped 17 people escape suspicious relationships in the past 2 years. 17 people who might have been the next Marlowe, the next Reverie, the next victim on some con artist's calendar. So Grafton Pierce didn't win, he's dead and forgotten. His real name is attached to a criminal case file that law enforcement uses for training. His victims are alive, healing, and helping others. That's justice, not the kind you see in courtrooms, but the kind that actually matters. If you're watching this and something about your partner feels off, if their stories don't quite line up, if you've never met their family, if they're secretive about their past, if they've isolated you from friends, if they're pushing you to make financial decisions that benefit them, trust that instinct. Ask questions, demand proof, Google their name. Check public records, verify everything. Because predators like Grafton Pierce are still out there. They're charming, they're attentive. They're perfect until you realize they're not real. I spent 18 years married to a ghost. I almost died because of it, but I didn't. I'm here, I'm alive. I'm telling this story so someone else might recognize the warning signs I missed. Your intuition is not paranoia. Your questions are not accusations. Your need for truth is not an insult to love. Real love can handle questions. Real love welcomes transparency. Real love doesn't require you to ignore red flags or silence your doubts. Grafton Pierce counted on me ignoring those things. He counted on all six of us being too polite, too trusting, too loving to demand proof. He was almost right, but almost isn't enough. I'm 63, I'm single, I'm cautious, I'm scarred, but I'm alive. And that's a victory Grafton Pierce can never take away. Thank you for listening to my story. Verify everything, trust carefully, love wisely, and never, ever ignore the moment when something doesn't feel right. Because that moment might save your life. If you suspect you're a victim of identity theft or financial fraud, contact the Federal Trade Commission at Identity Theft. Gov or call 1-877-ID-THEFT for relationship concerns. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233 or visit. And now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? Let's tell it together. Here on this channel, your voice matters. If you have a personal story, a revenge moment, a betrayal twist, or even an idea that you think would make our narratives sharper, more emotional, or more entertaining, share it with us. Tell us what themes you want more of. What twists keep you hooked? What parts of our stories hit you the hardest? Or what you'd love to hear next? Drop your thoughts, stories, and suggestions in the comments below. Let's build this amazing community together, one powerful story at a time. Your story could be the next one featured. Don't be shy, we're listening. And we would always respond. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more satisfying stories like this.